The first of the biological approaches that we're going to look at is Hans Eysenck's personality trait theory. Eysenck was practicing a psychologist through most of the 20th century, and his personality trait theory has been really influential on how we monitor and measure the development of children, particularly their physical development. So what is a personality trait? Personality trait is different characteristics that we have that describe our personality or how people act. So, for example, we might be cheerful, moody, imaginative, self-sufficient, timid, aggressive, happy-go-lucky sort of person. We have lots of different personalities, and different people demonstrate different personality traits at different times. And it's the combination of these different traits and the way that they interact which forms the personality unique to every individual. You might have similar personality traits to your parents, but actually they are unique to you. So what personality traits do you have? And what are the possible reasons for your particular traits? Just stop a minute and think about your personality traits. What are you really like? How do you behave? Why do you think you're like that? How much are you like your parents in your personality? Temperament's another way of describing personality. So what is your temperament? Your behaviour? How would you describe your personality? How do you react in different ways to a situation? Because different people react in different ways to the same situation. And what could be the reasons for that? Well, the biological approach is the explanation that Eysenck gives to the development of our personality. So you're going to apply his theory to different personality types. And eventually you're going to have to evaluate or assess the evidence of his theory. To what extent can our personality be down to our biology, our genes and our physiological makeup? So, Eysenck developed this theory of personality or temperament. There he is, Hans Eysenck. He was born in Germany, but he emigrated to England when the Nazis started to be influential because he's of a Jewish origin, and he practiced the rest of his life in England. Eysenck considers personality differences a result of our physiology and our genes. So, the way our body's made up and the genes we inherit. Our physiology, the way our body works, as a result of the genes that we inherit. He says that human behaviour is a result of a complex system of hormones and neurotransmitters, so the way that messages are passed in our body, rather than by our life experiences. And he says that all of that is due to genes. So because of our genes, some of us have a more responsive sympathetic nervous system than other people. So some people remain calm in an emergency, while others will feel fear or anxiety. And Eysenck says that type of personality we've got is really down to our genes. So if we relate that to things that we've just been learning about, it's actually saying that we're influenced by nature and not by nurture. So according to Eysenck, and there are other psychologists who share his view, and his view is based actually on a lot of research that is done looking at personality traits in people, that he says we're affected by biology, by nature, and not, or rather less than, by nurture. So our personality traits are a result of our genetic inheritance and our physiology, the way that our body works in terms of the hormones and the neurotransmitters, the sympathetic nervous system. And to back it up, we can see that some personality traits are run in families. So we can see that people who are easygoing tend to have easygoing parents. People who tend to have high anxiety levels perhaps have parents who are easily anxious or a worrying type of personality. So Eysenck seems to think that the reason that we've got this personality is down to our genetics and our physiology, less than things that actually happen to us. So what is his theory then? Eysenck says we've got two main dimensions of personality. He actually later found a third dimension, but initially it's just these two dimensions that you really need to know about, because his third dimension only applies to a certain group of people. But the two dimensions of personality apply to everybody. And he says these dimensions are, the first one is people are on a scale between extrovert and introvert. So some people, their personality is very much at the end of an extrovert personality. So they would perhaps be lively people, outgoing people, very responsive to others, very sociable. Whereas at the other end of the scale, more introvert people tend to be thoughtful, quiet, perhaps sometimes unsociable, even could be moody. But the second dimension, he says, is between neurotic and stable. Neurotic meaning unstable. So people are either neurotic, where they're highly anxious and worriers, pessimistic perhaps, whereas stable people are much more calm and reliable and controlled. And Eysenck says that individuals fit somewhere between each of these, on each of the extents on both of the dimensions. So somebody could be described as an introvert, stable person, or an introvert, neurotic person, or equally an extrovert, stable person, or an extrovert, neurotic person. So we can be highly outgoing and sociable, but at the same time become a worrier, an extrovert, neurotic. We could be an introvert person where we're quiet and thoughtful and controlled. That would be introvert, stable. But if we're an introvert, unstable, or introvert, neurotic, then our personality will be more likely to be unsociable, perhaps rigid, moody, a pessimist. And there we can see in much more detail Eysenck's illustration of how he put people into each of these four groups depending on their personality. So we've got, there at the top, we've got emotionally unstable or neurotic, and at the other end of the scale we've got emotionally stable, whereas at the same time we're on this scale of being introverted at one end or extroverted at the other. So Eysenck would say, if your personality matches more the characteristics in this quarter of his circle, you'd be described as introverted neurotic. So if you're reserved, pessimistic, more likely to be anxious or moody, quiet, you're an introverted, unstable person. On the other hand, if you're active and more optimistic rather than pessimistic, act on your impulses, and can be quite excitable and restless, or even sometimes aggressive and touchy, then you'd be an extrovert, neurotic, or extrovert, unstable person. However, introverted stable means people who are, again, thoughtful and peaceful, but they're emotionally calm and reliable. They're even tempered. They don't fly off the handle. They tend to be careful and thoughtful, and perhaps may be more passive in certain situations, not easily upset. But if you're extrovert stable, then this means that you are more confident, more outgoing. You've got good leadership qualities. You'll be responsive to other people, quite talkative and lively. So different personality types fit into those four categories that Eysenck identified. And he identified these from studying many, many thousands of individuals and looking at their different characteristics, their different personality traits, and grouping them according to their personality traits. So the good news is, some people will be very high in one trait, for example sociability, while others will be very low in it. but most of us actually sit somewhere in the middle. Not many people go to reach either extremes of the two different dimensions. We actually fit somewhere between the two. Only very few people will be at either extreme. Eisen had a third personality dimension, but really that only applies to people with perhaps mental illnesses or mental conditions, and we'll look at that in class. So you need to come to the next lesson with a good understanding and some notes that tell you what type of theory does Eisen have. According to Eisen, what is the reason we develop personality or our different temperaments and behaviour? What's the effect of genes in the sympathetic nervous system on our personality? Why does Eisen think those personality traits are a result of genes? What are the two main dimensions and the 4 different personality types, and give some characteristics of each of those 4 personality types. Make sure that you bring all that to the lesson. You might even want to print out a PowerPoint to put into your notes. See you next lesson.